A few years ago, this place was named the best place to live in Scotland by the Sunday Times. And when you arrive here, it's not hard to see why. But what actually makes somewhere the best place to live? I'm in Dunkeld to find out. I have made it to the town of Dunkeld. This is actually a place that I've wanted to visit for years and years. I often drive past the sign coming into Dunkeld on the main road, but I've never actually come in and seen this town. I'm starting my time exploring Dunkeld down here at the River Tay, and you can see behind me this bridge. This bridge actually has a really interesting story, perhaps one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard about a bridge. Before this bridge was built, the only way across the River Tay here was by ferry, though it could be dangerous and unreliable in bad weather. In 1809, the bridge was constructed as part of efforts to improve access into the Highlands, but it was difficult and expensive to build due to the challenges of the river. To cover the costs, it was introduced as a toll bridge, which really angered locals. This led to protests and riots, with people attempting to destroy the toll gates, and soldiers were eventually brought in to restore order. The Dunkeld Bridge was, surprise, surprise, designed by Thomas Telford, the Scottish engineer who has designed so many things all over Scotland, and the toll was eventually abolished on the bridge in 1879. As I'm standing here looking out over the river, I don't think I appreciated how wide the River Tay is. This river is one of the best places in Scotland to go salmon fishing, and sometimes you can actually see salmon leaping in different parts of the river, and there's lots of companies that offer salmon fishing, so if you're interested to do that, you can look it up online. I've come down to take a closer look at the river. It flows so fast and it looks like there's currents and rapids inside the water. This is Scotland's longest river and it's around 120 metres long. The reason why it is so strong and powerful is because a lot of snow from the Highlands melts into the river, and then there's huge amounts of water added, which makes it very, very powerful. And that's why the bridge here had to be very carefully designed and engineered to cope with the very powerful river. It also has the largest catchment of any river in Scotland, so many other rivers are flowing into it. It's so loud just standing here even. Gosh, I wouldn't want to fall in. Absolutely no swimming. I'm now going to head into the town and visit one of the main attractions to see here in Dunkeld, and I'm so curious to see what this town is like and why it has been voted one of the best places to live. Spring has arrived here in Scotland. Wow. Down here at the river there's actually a car park which is really central in the town. Good place to park to explore Dunkeld. Come over the bridge here on the left. You immediately enter into the main high street of Dunkeld. The streets in Dunkeld are so beautiful today, but most of what you see actually dates back to the 18th century, when the town was rebuilt. In 1689, a fierce battle took place here as government troops defended Dunkeld against Jacobite forces. Much of the original village was destroyed in the fighting, leaving the town to be rebuilt in the years that followed. The name Dunkeld comes from Scottish Gaelic, meaning the fort in the wood, and these days around 1,200 people live here. This street down here is the High Street, and it leads to the cathedral, which will be my first stop. The cross here in the centre actually is the point where many streets meet, and this basically meant that traders could come here and sell their goods legally. And up here is the road to the cathedral. My first impression is how many independent shops there are. I'm looking forward to exploring them more after. There's a gift shop, pottery, a clootie dumpling. Oh, I heard this is a good place to go if you want to have clootie dumpling, although it's closed today. Clootie dumpling is a traditional Scottish dessert, and it's a fruit cake and it's usually served with custard. You can't actually get it on that many menus when you travel in Scotland, so if you ever see it on a menu, make sure you order it to give it a try. It's not my favourite, it's quite heavy, but it's definitely worth trying. I have made it into the grounds of Dunkeld Cathedral. It's free to enter, and this cathedral is said to be one of the most spectacular cathedrals to see in Scotland. There's something really unique about this because half of it is a ruin and half of it is still in use. This site has been a religious centre since the 9th century, when relics of St Columba were brought here from Iona to protect them from Viking raids. That moment really put Dunkeld on the map, turning it into one of the most important early Christian centres in Scotland. The cathedral you see today was built mainly in the 13th and 14th centuries, using local grey sandstone. Part of the cathedral lies in ruins because of the Scottish Reformation in the 1500s, when many Catholic buildings lost their role and fell into disrepair. The eastern section was later repaired, which is why it's still used as a church today. That side over there, that's a operating Church of Scotland church, and then this here is all in ruin, and it looks like they're doing some restoration of it there because there's so much scaffolding. My goodness. Here's a sketch of what the cathedral used to look like. So you can actually go inside the modern part of the cathedral, so let's go inside and take a look. Wow, that stained glass window is amazing. Inside the cathedral is the tomb of Alexander Stewart, known as the Wolf of Badenoch, one of the most powerful and feared nobles in medieval Scotland. His effigy shows him in full armour, with his feet resting on a lion, and along the base are carved figures known as weepers, little men at arms representing mourners. The cathedral is right on the banks of the River Tay, and with all these trees, it's such a peaceful place to come and sit, enjoy the peace and quiet, watch the river, listen to the birds. There's lots of locals walking around here. It's so nice. Oh my gosh, I just came down to the riverside and the view of the Dunkeld Bridge from here is amazing. From here, you can see on the side of the bridge, the columns, they have plus and minus signs, and it makes them look a bit like batteries. Before we continue, I'd like to say thanks to Beam for making it possible to film this video today. If you've followed my travels for a while, you'll know that I spend a lot of nights in my van in many different places. Sometimes I'm sleeping beside a noisy harbour, a busy road, or in the middle of a storm. So getting a good night of sleep is very important to make sure I can make the most of the next day exploring. One thing that's become part of my evening routine is Beam Dream. It's designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. My favourite flavour at the moment is the chocolate peanut butter. I usually make mine with oat milk, which makes it really creamy, and it's a lovely, cosy drink to have before bed. Dream uses all natural and sleep promoting ingredients like magnesium and reishi that help your body relax and move through the different stages of sleep. It's also vegan, doesn't include anything artificial, and has no added sugar. I've been using Dream for about 2 years now, and it helps me fall asleep much quicker, and I feel like I get a much deeper sleep. If you're struggling with falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up tired, I'd highly recommend giving Dream a try. You can find the link in the video description below, and if you use my code RuthAshling, you can get up to 35% off for a limited time. Thank you again to Beam for sponsoring this video. A large part of Dunkeld is cared for by the National Trust for Scotland. This has helped preserve the historic character of the town and prevented modern development from changing the streets too much. When Dunkeld was described as one of Scotland's best places to live, it was said to have a thriving village community and a top-notch food scene. The high street is quite short, but what it lacks in length, it absolutely makes up for in quality. There are so many interesting, independent shops, which personally I absolutely love when visiting a place. Just down beside the bridge here, it looks like this is an allotment. Wow. I really enjoyed wandering around the village, having a look in some of the shops and visiting some of the bakeries. So Arran Bakery is one of the famous bakeries here in Dunkeld, and I picked up a few things for my lunch. I got this drink as well, a nettle and elderflower drink. What an interesting combination. Let's give this a try. Wow, that is so good. So I got this feta pastry. That looks so yummy. Wow, that is unbelievable. There's a TV show called The Great British Bake Off. I've never actually watched it, but I think the owner of that bakery was in the finals or the semi-finals of that show. I think it's mostly baking that they do on that show. It's quite a famous bakery. I think it's got quite a big Instagram page, a lot of followers. Sometimes when you eat a pastry, it's quite soggy or it can be quite dry and crunchy. This is the perfect balance of soggy and dry in the middle. It's perfect, so good. Now time to try the nutty caramel shortbread. This looks so yummy. Caramel shortbread is one of my favourite Scottish treats. This one is an interesting take on it. Instead of chocolate on the top, there are lots of nuts. Everything from that bakery is 10 out of 10. So one of the things that actually was a contributing factor to this town winning Best Place to Live was the community events. So here's the notice board with different things going on. So there's music events, running group. Now I'm going to cross over the Dunkeld Bridge, cross over the River Tay. So this is the view from the top of the bridge. There's actually a cafe or a bar down there, I think. That would be a nice place to go. And you can have a drink, look out over the river, especially in the summer. I think there's also a sauna down there as well. I am going to continue on over the bridge. There are a few other things to see over the other side of the bridge. Dunkeld is really well connected and popular for day trips too, with a train station just outside the village. Direct trains to Glasgow and Edinburgh take about 90 minutes. It makes such a difference when a place is easy to reach like that, especially when so many places across Scotland lost their railways in the 1960s. It always makes me wonder what those places would be like today if they still had their railway stations. So there is a little village when you cross the bridge called Burnham, and there is an arts centre here, and there's something really interesting in the arts centre. It is a Beatrix Potter garden. Let's go and see if it's open. I have made it into the Beatrix Potter garden, and you might be wondering, what does Beatrix Potter have to do with this place? Well, she was from London. She was from a wealthy family in London, and they used to come on extended family holidays here to Scotland, to Dunkeld, and she spent a lot of time in nature, which she didn't really get much of in London, and this is said to have inspired her illustrations and her stories, including Peter Rabbit. There is an exhibition in the building here, the Burnham Arts Centre. I don't think it's open today, but the garden seems to be free to enter, and there's lots of little things to see around this garden. The Beatrix Potter Garden is a small, peaceful spot created to celebrate her connection to Dunkeld. As you walk through it, you can see little sculptures of her characters hiding among the plants, like Peter Rabbit and Jemima Puddle Duck. Oh, inside here, there's a little animal hiding. Wow, that looks so real. A short walk from the Beatrix Potter garden is a 500-year-old oak tree with a very interesting story attached to it, and that's where I'm going to head next. I've made it down beside the river, but I'm not sure which tree is the 500-year-old one. There's a lot of very big trees here. I have found the ancient tree. This is called the Burnham Oak, and it's said to be between 400 and 500 years old. It appears in the Shakespeare work Macbeth, and when Shakespeare came to this area as an actor to do performances, he came for a walk in these woods, and then later on he wrote about it. So impressive. This tree here is the oak tree, and then beside it is another absolutely huge tree, but this one here is a sycamore tree, and it's said to be around 300 years old. Burnham Wood appears in Shakespeare's Macbeth as part of a prediction that Macbeth will only be defeated when the forest comes to him. It sounds impossible until an army marches towards him carrying branches from the wood as camouflage, making it look like the forest itself is moving. The Burnham Oak and Burnham Sycamore are surviving pieces of that ancient woodland. It's so nice to see so much woodland, because in many parts of Scotland, and especially if you've seen my videos before, there are so many places that don't really have that many trees, so it's really nice to see so many trees here, especially really, really old ones. Oh, so this is on the oak tree. These supports have been added to help hold it up. I also noticed that there's this hollow inside the tree. This is what it's like inside the tree. There's enough space in here for about 2 or 3 people. This would be such a good den for kids. I think the location of Dunkeld was definitely a contributing factor to why it won Best Place to Live, because it's so easy to go out for a walk in the woods, down by the river, be surrounded by trees and nature. It's lovely. I have made it just outside Dunkeld now to a protected woodland called the Hermitage. This is said to be one of the oldest tourist sites in Scotland, and it's home to some of the tallest trees in the UK. As I'm walking along, you can already start to see the really tall trees. These are Douglas fir trees. This woodland is managed by the National Trust, and you have to pay £5 for the parking, which in my opinion does seem a little bit steep for a parking fee. I think at Glenfinnan, which is also managed by the National Trust, I think the parking fee there is also £5. If you are a National Trust member, you get to park for free. There's actually so many walks that you can do in here, different forest trails, and then there's some markers here which direct you where to go. The Hermitage woodland was created in the 18th century as part of the designed landscape of the Dunkeld House estate, and running right through it is the River Bran, which has really dramatic rapids. All around me you can see these huge Douglas fir trees, and they reach up to heights of 60 metres here in this woodland. And the Douglas fir is actually a native species to North America, but they were brought here and planted as part of some experimental forestry project in the early 1800s. There's so many trees here, and I was reading that because the soil is really wet here, that makes the trees grow really tall and really straight. This is Black Lynn Falls, one of the main highlights here in the Hermitage, where the river forces its way through this narrow, rocky gorge, crashing down with so much power. Up here, beside the waterfall, is actually a viewing hall called Ossian's Hall. This was built in 1757, so visitors could come through the forest and then go inside here and view the waterfall. The hall is named after Ossian, a heroic poet from Gaelic mythology, and in the 1700s, poems said to be written by him became popular across Europe. Inside Ossian's Hall, mirrors were carefully placed to reflect the waterfall and surrounding forest, creating a kind of natural theatre when you step inside. Wow, I did not expect this. When you stand outside on the terrace, it feels like it's raining because of all the spray from the waterfall. Just nearby, there's actually a huge amount of driftwood that has come along the river and then been thrown onto the side here. That river and the rapids are so powerful, so loud as well. I saw a sign for something called Ossian's Cave, so I decided to go looking for it. This might be the cave here. Looks like it. Let's see if there's another entrance that's a bit bigger. So this is called Ossian's Cave. Oh, looks a bit dark and creepy in there. Let's go in. Hello? Can't see anything. Can't even see if someone else is in here. Oh, and then you can see out. Oh, it's very drippy. There's like a little window there as well. And then another window there. This place is a bit scary actually. Okay, let's go out. They've actually closed off the path because one of the huge big trees has fallen over. Look. My gosh, imagine that, the sound of that falling over. That is massive. I have really enjoyed exploring the Hermitage woodland. If you're in this area, I think it's a must visit, but I do think it does get quite busy in the summertime. I'm here midweek in the off season, and I think this time of year was a good time to come because there's so much water in the river. I drove back through Dunkeld to come and visit a loch which is nearby. It's called the Loch of Lowes or Lowes, and this is a very important wildlife loch, but there is nowhere to park. There is a wildlife centre, but once it closes at 5 o'clock they barricade up the car park and you can't even go in for a walk. This loch is very famous for ospreys. They migrate every year between Scotland and Africa, and if you go down to the loch you can see them diving inside the loch looking for fish. Another interesting thing about this loch is that there's been beavers spotted here as well. They've recently been reintroduced into this area. I'm actually quite peckish, even after all those bakery treats earlier on today, and I'm going to head back down to Dunkeld and look for something for dinner. I have parked up in Dunkeld, and the Dunkeld Fish Bar looks very popular. There's lots of people in there getting fish and chips, so I think that's what I'm going to get for my dinner. Okay, here it is, the Dunkeld Fish Bar. Oh, they do deep fried cream egg, deep fried Mars bar, deep fried sweet of the week, cream egg. I'm gonna have to try that. I got the fish and chips. These look absolutely amazing. How much were, I think they were £12.40 for the regular haddock. I do have some vinegar and ketchup in the van. I also got a deep fried cream egg, which is crazy. I have never tried a deep fried cream egg before. So let's try the fish and chips, see how they taste. Very good. My favourite is tartar sauce, but I forgot to order some tartar sauce. That is so good. The fish is very crispy. Now the big moment. Time to try the cream egg. I hope it's still warm. The man said in the chip shop you can add salt to it. Gives it a bit of a nice flavour. Let's see what this is like. Inside is all gooey. That is so yummy. That's dangerously yummy. If you ever have the chance to try deep fried cream egg, you have to try it. I enjoyed that much more than I expected. Without a doubt, 10 out of 10 for that deep fried cream egg. Good morning from a very wet and rainy and damp Dunkeld. Something very special is happening in the forests around Dunkeld this morning, and this is the annual birch sap harvest. So basically the trees are going to be tapped to collect sap, which will be turned into drinks. This only happens for a few weeks every spring and is happening today. So I'm going to go along and see what's going on. I joined the annual birch sap harvest with Birken Tree, a small company based near Dunkeld, who are bringing back this tradition which was largely lost in Scotland after the Highland clearances. Some of their trees are around 300 years old.
In the Highlands, people were tapping birch trees in the springtime, just as we're in now, and drinking the sap has lots of health properties, so it's really good for the immune system. It has lots of vitamins and minerals, potassium and zinc and calcium in it. It's not very sweet, it's not like maple trees. So originally it was used as a health tonic. People would drink it in the springtime and celebrate the spring equinox. We discovered by chance that it mixes really well with spirits, whiskey and other spirits. It's very active, there are lots of enzymes in it. You'll see that in the bottle that's sat for a little while. You get a little bit of sediment at the bottom, and that's the enzymes in it, and that's what gives it the viscosity and that mouthfeel that you get. So when you drink it or you add it to whiskey or spirits, you get this lovely coating in your mouth. It's not too thick, but it's more akin to milk in terms of its texture than water, although it looks like water. It will give generally about 10 to 15 litres a day, which is only a fraction. It's pumping around hundreds of litres of sap a day before it comes into leaf. The sapping season lasts for about 3 weeks, so it's really short. First week, and the sap is just getting there. It's a little bit watery. The second week is perfect. It's slightly more viscous, and there's a very slight sweetness at the back of the throat, and that's just perfect. So that second week going into the third week is just ideal. So this is what we're coming into now.
Let's give the birch sap a try. I'm very curious what it tastes like. Interesting. I expected it to be a little bit sweet, like maple syrup perhaps, but it's really not. It tastes like healthy water or something. So fascinating that this comes directly out of the tree. When communities were cleared from the land in the 18th and 19th centuries, many traditional seasonal practices began to fade. Things like foraging, small-scale farming, and tapping birch sap were part of everyday life. And when people were displaced, that knowledge wasn't passed on in the same way. It's so nice that this ancient tradition is being brought back to life. I've really enjoyed my time exploring Dunkeld. What makes Dunkeld so special has a lot to do with the local community and the individuals who run such interesting independent shops and businesses here. More and more in Scotland, places like this, including the village I grew up in, are turning into hotspots for Airbnbs or second homes, which are used for only a few weeks a year. These are homes that would traditionally be lived in by locals, the very people who have made these places so special in the first place. I think it's something we all need to keep in mind when we travel to places like this. Also, where really is the best place to live? At the end of the day, isn't the best place the place you feel most at home, wherever that might be?